as a transformative tool. So that is my presentation. In the first part of the presentation, I'll be talking about the STEAM pedagogy, from STEM to STEAM, a kind of transition. And then in the second part of my presentation, I'll be articulating some of the curriculum perspectives as to how these curriculum perspectives fit well with STEAM education. So let me begin. So if we see Nepalese educational context, we can sort of see the major problem from STEAM education perspective. The first problem is disengaged nature of STEM educational processes. What I mean by this is that students, especially in science and mathematics, they seem to be disengaged. If you see university departments, they are becoming empty. Many students opting other subjects than science and mathematics. And as a professor of math education, this is a worrisome situation for me, because in school education system, science and math teaching becoming very much disengaged, very much dry, and it is not producing the human resources that is needing our country. And the problem, I think, is one size fits all approach, one style of learning, one approach to teaching, one kinds of curriculum fitting everybody throughout the country. And the third is challenges posed by quick fix approach to reform. Because we've been in reform since, I would say, since last 40 years, and we have very quick fix approach. We try to fix at the central level without understanding the problems at the local level, especially at the schools and at the teacher level. So because of these problems, we continually facing underachievement and business as usual attitude, because we change a little bit in the course content, but that doesn't substantially contribute to the transformation. And we blame, sometimes we blame students, and sometimes we blame teachers, sometimes we blame parents, and then sometimes we blame ministry people. So it's a kind of blame game there. But quite often we blame students, because we blame them being not paying attention to their study, and also we blame teachers because we blame them for not teaching well. And this is dissatisfaction at the receiving end, that means teacher, students, and also in the school system. High number of failure and insufficiency of reforms. This gives rise to insufficiency of research. So there are many ways that we can take. We continue to do the same. We can continue to reproduce the same situation, but we can think I think this is ripe for transformation, this situation. The first one is that we can think of radical restructuration of school curricula, that we can move beyond further than the subject-centered curricula, probably integrated curricula, starting at the basic level. Probably we need to work for pedagogical activism, such as this kind of fair is contributing to that direction, and discourse on key assumptions. What is the purpose of school education? What is the purpose of science and math education? It's just for economic rationalism, as Dr. Thapalia already mentioned, is not just to, regard learning as commodity, or school as commodity, or teachers as somebody who sort of sells knowledge, but it's more than that. And also think about well-being, and because we envisage in active citizenship in our constitution, and how education, especially STEM education, is to contribute to that direction, and inclusion and empowerment. Probably this is possible through STEAM education, not the conventional STEM education. I explain why, please. So if we see the whole range of pedagogical processes, then I'm here to articulate three major pedagogical strands. The first is informing STEM pedagogy. This is conventional pedagogy that we have been doing. We try to inform, we try to tell students to do this and that. This is the existing pedagogy, metaphor of infodesk, So schools are infodesk, classrooms, teachers, they are infodesk, they provide information. And this teaching is for completing the course, not more than that. Teaching subjects rather than teaching humans, thanks to Dr. Thabalia, you also touched upon this issue, and we are teaching subjects, actually, from grade 1, even from preschool. Even in Montessori, they teach subjects. Many Montessori schools in Kathmandu. Okay? So it's pity. And it is actually STEAM minus arts. You know what I mean by arts, I think will be, it has been featured in many of these, many of the activities of this fair. And this is pretty much technical dimension of STEM education. So this is first kind of pedagogy, which is very dominant, very prevalent. Second one, please. And the other is reforming a little bit of STEAM, little bit of art. There is, you know, there is this, what Habermas calls the practical dimension of STEM education. So it's metaphor of old house being repaired outwardly, a kind of quick fix approach. We say we should focus on student-centered curricula, but pedagogy, but still we have this big structural, structure, the conventional structure in terms of curricula, in terms of assessment, in terms of organizing the curricular materials. So teaching as for facilitation, so it moves gradually to the facilitation and moving towards student-centered pedagogical approaches, promoting a little bit of student participation. It's still STEM is here and art is here, and this is like plus, okay, you can mix sometime. So this is the approach here, and this is called the practical dimension of STEM, and A is within bracket, STEM education. Please go on, the next one. The third one is actually the ideal one, and that is what we envisage to have in our school system, aiming at critically examining deep-seated assumptions upon which STEM pedagogies are developed. This is the job of teachers, teacher educators, and also engage students in asking, questioning the way they are being taught, the way they have been, experiencing the school education system. That's how they are prepared active citizens for a democratic society. Second, questions often asked, whose interests are well served? I think this fair, especially the workshop parts, workshop slots will pay attention to these questions. Whose interests are well served by the existing pedagogy in science, maths, technology education? Whose interests are not well served? And these are the very important questions. I would say $1 million questions for us, for teacher educators to ask. And learners as questioners, inventors, and creative problem solvers. And this is engaged pedagogy. It's not controlled pedagogy, it's not directed pedagogy, but it is pretty much engaged pedagogy. That is the focus of transforming STEM pedagogy. So please, next one. So with this pedagogical vision at our disposal, next please. So then we can sort of summarize STEM education as for public good. Okay? So then we will be pretty much focusing on questioning pedagogy. What Sullivan, Meziro, and I've also written some papers on this one. This would be more on questioning pedagogy. So next please. So it's not the private good, STEM education is public good. That's where. So then we need well-developed curricular perspectives with us. So conventional curricula may be necessary, but they may be highly insufficient to implement this type of curricular perspectives. So in this section, I have divided this. I have tried to sort of develop sort of divide the existing curriculum perspectives into two major sections. One is classical curriculum, that's we have been focusing, and this second would be progressive curriculum. That would focus on reforming and transforming. So please, next slide. The first of this kind is curriculum as content. This is the dominant image of curriculum, subject matter to be taught, and teacher would focus on the topics, exercises, activities, taste, and especially the covering the content content coverage would be the major emphasis here. So teacher-centered, teaching as transmission, learning as reception, passive recipient. Students are considered to be passive recipients. Students not able to develop as imaginative and creative thinkers. So this is the emphasis. The emphasis here is on teaching subjects rather than teaching humans. Okay, second one, please. So, it is actually, the emphasis would be, please stay on that slide, please. Instrumental understanding rather than memorization. So I have some of the cartoon there. Okay, Mr. Osborne, may I be excused? My brain is full. I mean, this is the cartoon. Okay, so this is the metaphor here. I've been stuffed up. So that's the feeling that many of our students have right now. So next. So next slide, please. Then STEM curriculum as mastery. Second is, actually curriculum is perceived to be mastered. This approach derives from training programs in business, military, and industry. And many of our curriculum contents are driven by this image of curriculum as mastery. So learners pre-tested to assess existing knowledge, skills, detailed learning task design, learner post-tested to assess mastery. Learners can perform skills efficiently but not easily transferred to other broader contexts. That is the major problem with teaching maths and sciences. They can do physics, they can do maths, but they cannot transfer these skills in other contexts. They know they can define parallel lines, but they cannot, majority of them, most of them, if not all, they cannot see the parallel lines here. So this is the major problem. This is the problem of this image of curriculum that has been so deeply entrenched in our educational processes. Please, next one, please. So this is actually comes from conventional behavioral psychology, a focus on observable performance and emphasis on rote recall. So you can see stimulus response, and don't you ever think. So this is the kind you can relate with this cartoon as well. Please, next one. So likewise, the third dominant image is curriculum as reproduction. Schooling is to reproduce official knowledge and values for the next generation. And this is sometimes problematic. Because if you define official knowledge and values, this is okay to define to some extent. But if this becomes dominant, then schooling actually does not serve the interest of its own citizens. So there is a thesis in Nepal that we have our formal education. Actually, formal education started in 1971-72 in terms of centrally organized curriculum and education system, and Nepal witnessed a major revolution in 79-80, and because it was the problem of formal education. And again in 1990, and it is because of the problem of formal education. Again in 2005-06, it is because of the problem of formal education system. We continue to reproduce. The goal of curriculum, the goal of education, even in 1972, King Mahendra said that in the preface of every textbook in curricular material that our main purpose is to produce active citizens, whether he knew that or not. But actually the emphasis was on reproduction. So that is the major problem. And that problem is still with us. So next one, please. So there is always the spirit of conformity. Okay, spirit of conformity. So we try to conform everything. Okay, so whatever teacher teaches, whatever the system tries to reproduce, we try to conform. And this is not actually learning. Okay, this is actually reproduction. Okay, so it is opposed to spirit of independence. Next one, please. So in this way, the major outcome of this type of curriculum is that our students are able to produce, they can able to take tests. They don't have other skills. They cannot be critically, they cannot be critical. They cannot ask questions. It's the same that, last week we were in Parvat and we asked a group of students to think about their school, to vision about their school, to think of their school, what would they imagine? And they said they have no problem in their schools. The school is perfectly fine. And sadly, they all were from private schools. And this is the spirit of conformity, because they have not been prepared to think independently. They have been prepared to conform everything they have been taught. And that is the dangerous sort of situation that we are living. So next, please. So content mastery reproduction. So this is the one. So this is pretty much input model. We've been working on input model. Okay. So next one. So progressive STEM curriculum images would be, we can sort of think three major images. One is lived experience, learning outcomes. Third would be reconstruction. Please, next one. So lived experience, curriculum perceived as a process of experiencing meaningful learning resulting from classroom dialogue, classroom interaction, conversation. These are the terms that we use in this curriculum metaphor. It's unique. How are my students making sense of their learning experiences, and how can I make use of their out-of-school experiences? So this is the emphasis here for teachers. And each student is unique and worthwhile, so emphasis on personal development, and the focus would be on learning is coming to know. So it's not that they produce ready-made definition. The emphasis here is to show their struggle of their learning process. Learning connects with students' out-of-school lives. Of course, it is challenging in large class, especially where classical curriculum dominates. So this is the major problem when we have classical curriculum and classrooms, large classrooms. Okay. So STEM curriculum is learning outcomes. So next one, please. Yeah. So if we think of teaching focuses explicitly on the outcomes to be achieved or demonstrated by learners. So how can I make my teaching fully transparent and enable my students to judge one level of achievement as aspirational learners? So this is the emphasis of outcomes-based education. So students know intended learning outcomes. Learning is assessed against known criteria. Students learn to reflect. As Dr. Thapalia already mentioned, that reflection is very important on the part of teacher and also is very important on the part of students as well. Similarly, not all valuable learning outcomes is intentional, so there may be unintended learning outcomes and we need to acknowledge them as well. So likewise, the final one is, yes please, next one. Curriculum, STEAM curriculum as reconstruction. This is very, very important because the purpose of education, there are arguments for and against as far as this curriculum image is concerned. Some people say that education should be very much neutral, should witness everything that happens in society. But actually, there are many people out there who challenge the neutral view or neutral function of education, those who proponents of the neutral function of education. So this is pretty much activist view. This goes well with the activist view of education, that STEM curriculum as reconstruction. Schools provide knowledge and values that prepare students to improve society, to transform society. So this is the purpose of transformative education, transformative STEAM education. How can I enable my students to develop abilities to participate as critical citizens in a democratic society to help resolve 21st century global crises? And these global crises are probably, you are well known. One is climate change and there are many other anthropocentric global crises as well. So no society is perfect. The assumption here is that no society is perfect. All societies are rapidly developing, so education has to play a vital role. STEAM education has to play a vital role in shaping the society. Students learn about global issues, climate change, biodiversity, so for some of these examples. And also how to address them at local level, home, community, school. Students develop higher level abilities. For example, in Bloom's taxonomy, creating, evaluating, analyzing, evaluating, creating. So these are some of these higher order abilities. So this is, and also critical reflective thinking, what UNESCO says, transversal skills, critical reflective thinking, empathic communication, collaborative decision making, envisioning, commitment to making a difference. So these are not just me telling, but this is also well discussed recently in UNESCO's activities as well, and there is a document, I think, on UNESCO's website. So this is the emphasis of curriculum as reconstruction. Please, next. I'm coming to the end of my presentation, I think. So then, how can I enable my student to develop to their, so what is the resolution here? How can transformative STEAM education be used as a tool? If we develop this kind of curriculum perspective, that we have a progressive curriculum image together with the classical curriculum images, and if we blend meaningfully, then probably we can sort of respond to this question: how can I enable my students to develop to their fullest human potential as critical and competent citizens in a rapidly developing society seeking sustainable development? So this is the emphasis. This question can be sort of responded well by having a meaningful mix of these two sets of curriculum images. Currently we have these. These are very, very minimal. So probably we have a fair amount of these and more of these one. So that is the kind of, at the very theoretical overarching level, so we can start thinking through these curriculum images. So yes, please. I think this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening to me.